My daughter let her mother-in-law skip all the chores while I had to do everything. I did not notice it all at once. It crept in quietly, disguised as helping, as love, as being needed. When I finally said something, she brushed it off and told me I was too sensitive. I did not argue that day. I stayed silent. What I did instead would come later. My name is Maribel Hayes. I am 58. I moved into my daughter's house a few months after her wedding. It was supposed to be temporary, just until things settled. She had said that exact phrase, smiling, squeezing my hand, telling me she could really use the help. I believed her. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to feel like I still had a place in her life. At first, it felt simple. I cooked dinner while they worked late. I folded laundry so they could rest. I told myself this was what mothers did. This was love in action. I did not keep score. I did not ask for thanks. Somewhere along the way, my help stopped being help and started being expected. Plates were left on the table for me. Messes waited quietly, certain I would handle them. And in the middle of it all was her mother-in-law. Always seated, always resting, never lifting a finger. I told myself it was fine. I told myself it was temporary, and I kept going. Her mother-in-law moved through the house like someone on permanent vacation. She sat at the table long after meals ended, scrolling on her phone while dishes stayed where they were. When laundry came out of the dryer, she stepped around the basket instead of toward it. No one asked her to do anything. No one expected her to. One evening, I carried plates to the sink while my daughter leaned against the counter. "Mom, you don't have to do that," she said, not moving. "It's fine." I answered, "Already rinsing. I've got it." Her mother-in-law glanced over. "My knees aren't what they used to be," she said lightly. "I'd just slow everyone down." My daughter nodded. "She's had a long day. She needs to rest." I didn't say anything. I dried my hands and reached for the trash bag. Another night. I asked, "Can we rotate chores a little, just so it's not all on one person?" My daughter sighed. "You know how stressed she gets. It's easier this way." Easier for who, I asked. Keeping my voice even, she smiled. The kind meant to soften things. "You're good at this stuff. And you don't mind?" I did mind. I just didn't say it out loud. So I adjusted. I woke earlier. I moved quieter. I cleaned before anyone noticed there was a mess. When her mother-in-law left crumbs on the counter, I wiped them away before my daughter saw. When groceries ran low, I replaced them. No one asked me to. No one thanked me either. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself I was helping my daughter build her life. And slowly, without a conversation or an agreement, the house learned something simple. If something needed to be done, it would wait for me. It wasn't just the cleaning. That part was obvious. What wore me down was everything no one ever saw. One morning, my daughter waved a stack of envelopes at me. "Do you know what these are?" I flipped through them. Electric bill, internet notice, a reminder from the property office. "They're overdue," I said. She frowned. "I thought you paid those." "I did. Last month." "Oh." She set them on the table. "Can you just take care of it again? I've got a meeting." Her mother-in-law looked up from her coffee. "These things always stress me out," she said. "I'm glad you're good with paperwork." Good with paperwork. Like it was a talent, not time. I paid the bills, scheduled the plumber when the sink backed up, called the internet company when the signal dropped. I kept a list in my head of what was running low: milk, detergent, light bulbs. When something broke, I fixed it or figured out who could. At dinner, my daughter said, "The house feels calmer lately." "That's good," I replied. Her mother-in-law nodded. "It's nice not having to worry about little things." Little things. I pressed my fork against the plate until it stopped shaking. When my daughter and her husband argued, They argued in front of me. I learned when to leave the room, when to distract, when to smooth things over later. She didn't mean it like that. I told him once. She's just tired. I told her another time. Neither of them noticed the pattern. I became the buffer, the translator, the quiet fixer of moods. One night, my daughter said, "I don't know how you manage all this." I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "You do what needs to be done." She smiled, relieved, and went to bed. That was how it worked. The house ran smoothly, so no one asked why. Nothing fell apart, so no one looked for the hands holding it together. And because I never complained, they assumed I was fine. The comments were never loud enough to start an argument. That was the problem. They landed softly, like dust, and settled where no one thought to clean. One afternoon, her mother-in-law watched me wipe the counter for the third time. "You're very particular," she said, smiling. "I never worried about messes this much. Maybe that's why you're always tired." I paused. "I'm tired because I do everything," I said before I could stop myself. My daughter laughed from the other room. "Mom, she didn't mean it like that." Her mother-in-law raised her hands. "I'm just saying, you work yourself up." Later, when I folded laundry, she passed by and said, "You know, when I was your age, I let things go. Life's easier that way." I held up a shirt. "Whose is this?" She glanced at it. "Not mine." My daughter appeared. "Just put it in my drawer." That was the end of the conversation. At dinner, her mother-in-law pointed at the food. "This is nice," she said, "but you should rest more. No one expects you to act like the maid." My daughter nodded. "You don't have to try so hard." I set my fork down. "Then who's going to do it?" Silence stretched. Not uncomfortable, just ignored. "Mom," my daughter said gently, "you always take things personally." I swallowed. "I'm just asking to be spoken to with respect." She sighed. "See, this is what I mean. You're making it bigger than it is." Something shifted then. Not anger, something colder. I stopped correcting, stopped explaining. When comments landed, I let them sit there, unanswered. When her mother-in-law left a mess, I cleaned it without looking at her. Each small moment chipped away at something I hadn't realized I was protecting. Not pride, not patience, my place. And once that started to disappear, I felt myself shrinking to fit the space they left for me. I didn't break down in a dramatic way. My body simply stopped cooperating. One morning, my hands shook so badly I spilled coffee across the counter. I stood there staring at it, waiting for the irritation to come, the instinct to clean it fast before anyone noticed. Instead, I felt nothing, just tired. My daughter glanced up from her phone. "Are you okay?" "I didn't sleep," I said. "You should rest more," she replied, already scrolling again. Rest sounded nice. It also sounded impossible. By afternoon, my head throbbed and my legs felt hollow. I sat at the table to sort mail and had to read the same line 3 times before it made sense. When I stood, the room tilted. Her mother-in-law looked at me and said, "You really do too much. Stress will get you. I do it because no one else will." I said, she waved a hand, "You choose to." That word stayed with me. Choose. That evening, I burned dinner, not badly, just enough to smell. My daughter sighed when she walked in. "It's fine," she said, pulling out her phone. "We can order something." Her mother-in-law nodded. "Yes, don't push yourself." I sat down hard in the chair. "I don't feel well." My daughter hesitated. "Do you need anything?" I wanted to say help. I wanted to say see me. What came out was, "I need this to stop." She frowned. "Stop what?" "All of it." The silence that followed wasn't concern. It was confusion, like I'd spoken a language they didn't understand. Later that night, I lay awake listening to the house settle. My chest felt tight. my thoughts slow and heavy. I tried to imagine doing this another month, another year. My body answered before my mind did. No, it wasn't anger that woke me up. It was clarity, quiet and firm. I could keep going and disappear completely, or I could admit what I had been avoiding. This wasn't working, and I couldn't carry it anymore. I waited until after dinner, when everyone was sitting down and no one could pretend to be busy. My hands were steady. My voice was too. I need to talk about how things are divided around here, I said. My daughter stiffened. What do you mean? I mean chores. Bills. Daily things. I can't keep doing all of it. Her mother-in-law smiled without warmth. Oh, is that what this is about? I nodded. I made a simple plan. I slid a piece of paper across the table. Names, tasks, nothing complicated. My daughter glanced at it and frowned. Mom, this feels intense. It's practical, I said. Everyone who lives here helps. Her mother-in-law tapped the paper with one finger. I thought you enjoyed keeping busy. I enjoyed helping, I replied. This is different. My daughter rubbed her temples. She's under a lot of stress. Maybe this isn't the time. It hasn't been the time for months, I said. The room went quiet. Not angry. Careful. Her mother-in-law leaned back. I raised my children without charts. And I raised mine without turning her into the help. I said, surprising myself. My daughter looked between us. Can we not make this a thing? I'm trying to keep it from becoming one. I said. She exhaled slowly. You know she doesn't mean any harm. I know, I said, but harm happens anyway. Her mother-in-law pushed the paper back toward me. You're asking for too much. We all have our limits. So do I said. No one raised their voice. No one stormed out. But something hardened in the air. My daughter folded the paper and set it aside. Let's talk about this later. I watched the paper disappear into a drawer, not thrown away, just postponed. And in that small delay, I felt something else being delayed with it. Me. The next morning, my daughter found me at the sink, washing dishes that hadn't been mine. We need to talk, she said. I didn't turn around. I thought we already did. She lowered her voice. You embarrassed her last night. I asked for help. I said, I didn't accuse anyone. She felt attacked. I dried my hands slowly. And how do you think I feel? My daughter hesitated, then crossed her arms. Mom, you're being too sensitive about this. The words landed clean and sharp, not loud, not cruel, final. I'm telling you I can't do this alone anymore, I said. I'm tired. I'm not well. She sighed. Everyone's tired. Her mother-in-law appeared in the doorway. I don't want to be the reason you two fight, she said softly. I looked at my daughter. Then help me fix this. My daughter shook her head. You're making it bigger than it needs to be. Something in me went still. This is my life, I said. It doesn't feel small to me. She glanced at the clock. I have to get to work. We'll talk later, always later, always. As she walked away, her mother-in-law said, families compromise. I watched my daughter grab her bag and keys. She didn't look back. In that moment, I understood something I had been refusing to see. It wasn't that they didn't hear me. They had heard me clearly. They had just decided my discomfort was easier to live with than theirs. I didn't announce it. I didn't wait for permission. I went to my room and closed the door. My hands shook as I opened the closet. Not from panic, from the effort of stopping myself from reconsidering. I pulled out the small suitcase I used for short trips and set it on the bed. Clothes first. The practical ones. The ones I wore when I needed to feel steady. Then my documents, folded carefully. My phone charger. The things that were mine. My daughter knocked once. Mom, I'm packing, I said. For what I'm leaving. The door opened. She stared at the suitcase like it had offended her. You're overreacting. I'm done explaining, I said. I already tried. Her mother-in-law appeared behind her. "There's no need for drama. This isn't drama," I said, zipping the bag. "It's a decision." My daughter's voice sharpened. "Where are you even going? I'll figure it out." She scoffed. "You can't just walk out." "I can." I said, "I am." She looked around the room, as if expecting someone else to step in. No one did. I lifted the bag. It felt heavier than it should have. Not because of what was inside, because of what I was leaving behind. At the door, my daughter said, "So that's it." I paused, my hand on the handle. This is what happens when no one listens. She didn't answer. Her silence felt different now, not dismissive, uncertain. I walked out without another word. No slammed doors, no raised voices, just the sound of my shoes on the floor and the quiet click of the lock behind me. In the car, I sat for a moment with both hands on the wheel, breathing slowly. My chest hurt, my throat tightened, but underneath it all was something steadier than fear, relief. By the time I pulled away from the curb, my phone buzzed. I didn't look at it. I already knew what they'd say, and for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for answering. The first call came that evening. "Where did you put the trash bags?" my daughter asked. Her tone was irritated, like I had misplaced something on purpose. "I don't know," I said. "Wherever they were last time." She huffed and hung up. The next morning, she called again. "The internet isn't working. Did you forget to pay it?" "I paid it through last month," I said. "You'll have to call them." There was a pause. "I don't have time for this." "I didn't either," I said, and ended the call. By the third day, the messages changed. Shorter, sharper. "The sink is clogged. The fridge smells." The electric company left a notice. I read them all. I answered none. On the fourth day, my phone rang again. This time, her voice was tight. "Mom, we're really struggling with what I asked. Everything," she said. "It's a mess here." I pictured the piles I used to clear without a word. "Then you'll have to handle it." Her mother-in-law's voice came through the speaker. "This is ridiculous. Families help each other." I did. I said, "For a long time." Silence followed. Not the kind that ignores. The kind that realizes. Later that night, a final message came in. "The rent is overdue. I thought you took care of it." "I always did," I replied. "Now it's your turn." I set my phone face down and went to bed. The house hadn't fallen apart because I left. It fell apart because I had been holding it together alone, and without me there to quietly fix what no one else noticed. The weight finally landed where it always should have. I didn't hear from my daughter for 3 days. When she finally called, her voice sounded smaller. "Can we talk?" she said. "We can," I replied, "but I'm not coming back." She exhaled. "I know." We met the following weekend. I arrived with my purse and nothing else. No cleaning supplies, no list in my head. When I stepped inside, she hovered, uncertain. "Sit," she said. "I'll make coffee." I watched her fumble with the machine I used to clean every morning. Her mother-in-law stayed quiet, eyes down, hands folded. No one asked me to do anything. That was new. "We're trying," my daughter said finally. "It's harder than we thought." "I told you it would be," I said. Not sharply, just honestly. She nodded. I didn't see it before. I didn't rush to comfort her. I let the space sit. "I can visit," I said. "I can be your mother, but I won't manage this house. I won't absorb the stress so everyone else can stay comfortable." She swallowed. "I understand." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a promise. It was the beginning of something smaller and more careful. When I stood to leave, she hugged me, not tightly, respectfully. At home that night, I folded my own laundry and left the rest for tomorrow. My phone buzzed once. A message from my daughter. "Thank you for coming, and for staying firm." I didn't reply right away. I didn't need to. Here's what I learned. and I say this quietly because it matters. Love doesn't require unlimited access. Care doesn't mean self-erasure. And helping someone should never cost you your health, your voice, or your place in the room. If this story felt familiar, if you've ever been the one who holds everything together while being told you're too sensitive, take a moment. Like the video. Share it. Leave a comment with your story. Someone else might need to hear that they're not imagining the weight they carry. I love my daughter. I always will. But now, I love myself enough to keep the door where it belongs.